Thousands of years ago, before writing was invented, our clever ancestors used knot in rows to record their lives. For example, if they hunted 3 rabbits, they tied 3 knots. A big event would get a big knot, and a small thing, a small knot. But there was a problem. As small and more knots piled up, no one could remember which knot stood for. This went on until a historian named Cangjie came along. Legend has it that one day Cangjie saw some old men arguing at a crossroad. One said there were antelopes to the east, another claimed a tiger was in the west, and the third insisted deer were northbound. Cangjie asked, "How do you know which animal are where?" The old man turned and pointed to the ground. "We judge by the footprints." Cangjie looked at the footprints and suddenly had an idea. If different footprints stand for different animals, maybe special symbols can stand for different things. That's how pictographs were born. Even today, Chinese characters like Shan, Wu, Ri, 和月 are all pictographs. However, the ancients still encountered a new problem. How could you represent abstract concepts like tree roots or resting? Well, you already knew Bruce Mapper's pictograph, creating characters by directly depicting the external features of objects. In order to solve this problem, the clever Asians devised 3 other methods of character formation. The second is the simple indicate method. For example, since the tree root is hard to draw directly, they simply added a mark to the bottom of the character for wood, mu. Thus, the character Ben was born, representing the root or the foundation of things. The third method is the associative compound. This involves combining multiple characters to express a new meaning. For instance, to describe a scene of endless dance strings, the Asians combined 3 wood characters together to create Sen, meaning dance or forest. A more intricate example is rest. In ancient time, people often rested under trees. A person leaning against a tree, or a combined person and tree, you get Xiu, the character for rest. The fourth and most advanced method is the phonosemantic compound. For example, when the Asians needed to distinguish between different types of trees, they realized drawing the differences was too difficult. So they decided to use one part for meaning and one part for sound. Take the character for pine as an example. The wood part is the semantic component, representing the tree, while gong is the phonetic component, indicating the sound. These characters are the most widely used today, making up 80% of modern Chinese. This is a very convenient feature of Chinese language. You can often guess a character category based on its semantic component. For example, when you see the insect radical, you immediately know the word is describing an insect. Once the methods for creating characters were established, the actual appearance of Chinese characters began to evolve alongside changes in writing tools and the rise and fall of dynasties. It began in the Shang Dynasty with the oracle bronze script carved onto turtle shells and animal bones. Its lines were thin, slender, and hard. During the Shang and Zhou periods, characters were cast onto bronze vessels. This style is known as the bronze script. After Qin Shi Huang unified the 6 states, he implemented the small seal script. While its rounded shapes were graceful and beautiful. It was simply too slow to write. So, by the Han Dynasty, for the sake of convenience, those rounded curves were straightened out, transforming into a square and outright clerical script. By the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty, the clerical script was gradually refined and evolved into the regular script. However, as official business became more demanding, efficiency became key, and the rapid cursive script was born. Around the same time, to solve the problem of regular script being too slow to write and the cursive script being too hard to read, a style between the two emerged, the running script. Today, the regular script and running script remain the two most widely used styles in our daily lives. The written characters existed, but how did Asians learn to pronounce them? Back then, there were no voice recorders and no pinyin. Before any phonetic notation system appeared, teaching pronunciation relied entirely on oral transmission. This changed during the Han Dynasty when two notation methods emerged, the direct sound method and the fanxian method. The direct sound method simply used the homophone, a character with the same sound, to mark the pronunciation. This method was also often used in obscure Asian classes to help readers understand difficult texts. So, what about the fanxian method? This method uses two characters to indicate the pronunciation of a third one. It takes the initial consonant from the first characters and combines it with the final sound and tone of the second character to blend them into a single sound. This method remained in use from the Eastern Han Dynasty all the way to the late Qing Dynasty. By the Ming and Qing dynasties, Western missionaries began using Latin letters to annotate Chinese characters to help them learn the language. In 1605, the Italian Gesù Matteovic and Lazzaro Cattaneo collaborated to invent the first Chinese phonetic scheme using Latin letters, known as the miracle of Western writing. Fast forward to 1886, the British diplomat Thomas Wade created the Wade-Zhao system. It accurately recorded the spoken Beijing dialect and became the international standard for transliterating Chinese at the time. Familiar terms we see today, like Kung Fu and Kung Pao Chicken, are legacies of the era. During the Republic of China period, Mandarin phonetic symbol was born, referencing the phonetic letters by Zhang Taiyan. It was standardized by the Commission of the Unification of Pronunciation in 1913 and officially promulgated by the Beiyang government in 1918. It was promoted for 40 years and is still used in Taiwan province today. Finally, in 1958, to eradicate illiteracy and make Chinese easier to learn, based on the research of scholars like Lu Zhuangzhang and Zhou Youguang, the New China officially launched the Hanyi Pinyin scheme. The promotion of Pinyin significantly dropped the illiteracy rate from over 80% to just 4.08% by 2011, and it has become the international standard for spelling Chinese. From the ancient days of knot tying to the complex fancy system, and now to the convenience Chinese characters and pinyin of today, the evolution of Chinese characters is a reflection of our civilization's endless pursuit of communication and efficiency. So the next time we write down a Chinese characters or type out a string of pinyin, now you know you're using a crystallization of wisdom passed down for thousands of years. Starting this video, I'll be launching a new Chinese teaching series from 0 to HSK1. If you want to learn Chinese systematically, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. I will see you in next one.